Thank you so much for joining us. And today's lesson on life is I'm a survivor. Are you a survivor? Yes, you are. We have some amazing women today that are going to tell you about their stories of how they became the survivors that they are. Because the interesting thing is, many of us don't see ourselves as a survivor, but you are. Because you've been through some things, you're going through some things. And I know in the midst of those things, you don't feel like a survivor, but you are. And so we're gonna talk about their amazing stories today. But before we go into that, I wanna talk to you about a couple of things. I wanna just let you know, this is not about celebrity life, but they should be celebrated. This is not a reality show, but it is real life, or a story about somebody's misfortune to make you feel better about your situation. This show is about how to become victorious, how to live a wonderful life despite what you've been through. This show is about being a survivor and letting you know that you have the strength from the inside, but also we're going to talk about how you can turn that into something beautiful as they have done, and they're going to tell you about that in just a second. So let me go over here and introduce you to these beautiful ladies. So first we have Miss Chandra Moyer. Right? And so say your name again and just tell them a little bit about sort of some of the things that, you know, you've shared with me. Everybody has shared things with me, but I want you again to share only what you feel comfortable sharing, because we're talking about stories of triumph today. And you all been through something. So Chandra, share with us a little bit about some things that you've had to overcome to become the beautiful woman you are today.
All right, well, thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here.
My name is Chandra Moyer, and my healing journey began about 20 years ago. I was 37 years old. I was a mother, married, with 3 children, when my traumatic past invaded my present. I began having flashbacks, reliving body memories of the trauma of my childhood, and it was quite frightening because I had no memories of what had happened to me. And I thank God for godly counselors, support groups, my husband, who at one day said to me, I don't know who I'm married to anymore. Because he said, I saw a little girl earlier today. Are you going to be the wife that I married? I don't know who you're going to be. And you know, I said to him, I said, honey, I don't know either when this is all over. But I said, I have to trust God in this process because I didn't have all of me, all my parts. I had amnesia wall, I had dissociated. I said, I have to trust God when all this is said and done, that I'm going to be the woman of God that He created me to be. And so today, my husband says he's married to wife number 3. And he's his 3rd wife, and she's the best of all 3. So
thank you so much for sharing your story and things that you've been through in your life from childhood, because some things do creep up in your adulthood.
They do. They do. And you know, you don't realize that, you know, I was always an overcomer. So, you know, I was a major in the Army. I had the look, I had everything on par. So people from the external world would think, she's got it together.
Yeah.
But my personal life, my home life was a wreck.
Yeah.
And struggled with rage, didn't know why I had the rage and anger, which spilled out on my kids. And so, you know, so they've had to go through healing. But, you know, I think the best compliment that I had was from my oldest son, who said to me, Mom, you are not the same person that you were. Because I was a different mother to him than I was with my youngest one. And so, you know, that is a gift. But I just want to encourage some people out here, because for a couple of years, I just cried. I felt like I hemorrhaged. I felt like I bled. I grieved. There was so much loss as I was facing these memories. But, you know, you go through it, and there is life on the other side. There's life with my creator God. I have intimacy with Him, the intimacy I have with my husband, the relationship I have with my kids today. I don't believe I would have if I hadn't walked through that healing process.
Now, can I touch on one of the things that we mentioned? One of the things that, you know, you've had to deal with is like with incest. And I think that a lot of people don't realize how serious that is. We hear the word, but we don't really realize what that is. And that could be anything from, obviously, someone related to you, you know, inappropriately doing things from touching to actually physical acts that they shouldn't be doing. It felt wrong. It felt a little bit off. But it's not until you become that adult that it's like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I have this anger? Why do I have this rage? Why do I have this hatred toward men or this person or women or my mom or whoever? Because as a child, you don't verbalize things. You don't say, so-and-so made me mad, or I hate my mom because she stood by and watched, or I hate my uncle because he touched me that way. And it hurts even more when you still have to see that person.
It is, and you know, it's interesting. And I think when you're pre-verbal, if it starts very young, I was 1.5 years. I was molested till I was 14 years. I was 16, so it was 14 years by my dad. So you're pre-verbal, so you don't really have the words to express the emotion. And as I said, I didn't really have conscious memory.
Yeah.
And until that 37 age range, and I just had triggers that started coming. Some of you may be having triggers in your life. My daughter, she looked like me when I was that age, so that began to be a trigger, and things just began to unravel. So you don't have the words to express, but you have all this emotion. And you know what? We pray. I prayed for years, God, deliver me from this anger, because I didn't know what the anger came from. And every year I made New Year's resolution. I'm gonna control this better. I'm gonna get better at this. And every year got worse. And then finally, you know, God's mercy and grace, when I started unraveling, He was answering my prayer. You know, we don't think He's answering our prayer, but He was answering my prayer. And I got to the source, and you know, I don't have that anger and rage anymore.
But I want to go over to Carol Pratt-Lowe, and just anything you want to share about your journey as well, being a survivor, because you are a survivor, Carol.
Well, you know what? I think I'm a survivor, but I also think I'm just me.
You are just you.
And perhaps it started very early. I'm an only child. And I have to share this because my dad had a way of getting me to rewind things. He said, you have 7 minutes to cry and then you better hit the ground running and figure out what you're going to do. So anything that has happened to me, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, okay, Carol, that's over, get on with it. Unfortunately, I have been the victim of 2 crimes. One, when I was a graduate student at Norfolk State, I was raped leaving the library one night, crossing the street, and I think I survived that because, and it's not funny, but when the gentleman, I use the term loosely, gentleman was going through the process, I was laying there saying, when's he gonna get finished with this? I mean, okay, get it over with. And I looked up to the sky and I said, okay, God, because he had a knife at my throat too, and he said he was going to kill me. And I said, okay, God, I know this is a bad time to ask you, but since I'm not a violent person, could you not let me die like this? I will give back, I promise you. And that became a part of the lesson. So even when I went to the hospital and the doctors were saying, she's so calm. Why? I said, it's over, it's done, I'm alive. Can I go now? And
that's amazing.
I just kept, and that in my mind. And then I was very blessed because I was at Norfolk State, and the people in my department, I was in graduate school in mass communication. When they heard it, the next day they were coming to Smithfield, I'm from Isle of Wight County, and said, don't worry about your lessons, we are going to make sure that you have everything you need. It was pre-internet, so we didn't have computers.
I had to bring you some books and papers and assignments.
The next week I went back to class and everybody was saying, well, how are you coping? I said, we just stopped talking about it, let me move on now. God and I got this. So that was the first thing. And then this past summer, I was robbed at the railway station, right across the light rail station, right across from Norfolk State. Very fortunately, I believe in God. I do believe. My dad used to tell my mom that when she was worried about something connected with me, he said, you might as well get over it because she's already past that. And I said, well, once I tell God about it, I sort of just...
Well, I think that's interesting because, and I think what's important in your story, your journey, is that everybody does things at their own pace. So I applaud you for having your own way of doing things. And just to encourage people that sometimes if you need to cry. Sometimes if you want to move past it, move past it. It's really up to you.
That's true.
So thank you again for sharing your journey as well. So I'm going to go over here to Miss Deidre Cooper also to share a little bit about her story as well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks
Welcome
for having
to the
me
show.
on. Yes. Again, my name is Deidre Cooper, and my journey started, I believe, when I was a child, small child.
Okay.
At that, we were taking, me and my 2 other siblings were taken from my mother and father. Later found out my mother had really serious mental issues, which is a sickness like any other disease that you will have these days. We were fostered by strangers and also fostered by a lot of other family members through the family. So through the years, it really affected me because it's like I never had a sense of belonging.
Mhm.
I dealt with a lot of what you want to call it, self-esteem issues. I always felt displaced, you know, and that grew up in me as a, you know, as a younger adult, and carrying that on to relationships with other people, you know. So I was in an abusive relationship when I was 20, from the age of 23 to 25.
Yeah.
It was bad. I got out before it got really physical. It was a lot more. It was more mental than a lot physical.
Mm-hmm.
I had a child when I was a young age. I was 20 when I had my son, and I also have a daughter. I had her when I was 25 as well. So I would say having a child at a younger age, not knowing the road, the path you're going to take, not being able to take care of my son by myself. I've always been a single parent, going on now for about 14 years, being a single parent. And it's, you know, it's life-changing when you know where you want to be and you know where you came from. And you don't want to go back that way.
Exactly.
You know, I suffered from serial homelessness as a child with my mother, and as an adult, I was homeless once with my son, and he was a couple months, and you know, all that came through when you trust someone. I was young. I thought I was grown. I had my son. I thought everything was in place. I found someone I fell in love with, and he wasn't the right person. I was a good person, always been good, never been in any trouble, but he was a bad guy. You know, but I thought that was cute to, you know, he sells drugs, he's this, he has money, you know, and that's the road that I took because I was young. I didn't have anyone to influence me to do the right things or meet the right people or whatever. He got in a lot of trouble. You know, the ACF feds raided our house, and that's how I became homeless for about 3 months with my son.
Yeah.
You know, and the shoes could have turned around differently. It could have worked differently than that. It could have been different.
Yeah.
So since then, I decided to change my life. You know, I try to go to school, went to school, got an education, and I've been taking care of my son, and we've been good ever since.
But I want to thank Deidre for being here and for sharing her story. But she's going to come back and talk about her business as well. So I come over here to Carmen Scargins to talk about a little bit about her journey as well.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
My name is Reverend Carmen Scoggins. I'm from Boykins, Virginia. I was a victim of physical abuse, mental abuse, and verbal abuse. Years ago, I got married when I was 19, baby. I thought I was grown, so I wanted to get married. So once I got married, I became naive, quiet, always been quiet, and knew nothing about marriage, So I had no one to tell me how you're supposed to treat your husband, how your husband's supposed to treat you. It was a learning process. So I thought that by me being a victim of abuse, that it was okay, until the Lord just gave me words of wisdom saying, okay, no, I did not create you to be abused or to be hit on or to anything like that. I did not create you for that. So I want you to get yourself together and do something about it. So I went back to school, and I graduated from nursing school, and I would come home every day and try my best to learn everything I could about nursing. And I was told the only thing I ever see on you is the back of your head. And from that day to this one, I've learned to have confidence in myself. I don't wait for anybody to tell me that I can do this, I can do that. I know what's on the inside of me.
That's right.
And I know what I can do, and I know what I'm not capable of doing. But the Word of God said we can do all things through Christ Jesus that strengthens us.
Tell us what you're doing today and how people can reach you or hear from you.
Okay, now I have a radio program that Dr. Khalida Perry is on after me. WLQM 1250 AM on your radio dial in Franklin, Virginia. It's a women's ministry called Sister to Sister Ministries, and it's geared to help abused women. Not only to the women, it's also for men also. And because we have to be helpers of one another. Also, I have a ministry at my church, Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, where I'm the leader and director for the women's ministry. And I have a lot of young people, a lot of older women and middle-aged women come asking for help, and what must I do? So if you need to get in contact with me, my email address is carmenscoggins@yahoo.com.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I have a company called ID Consultants Impressively Dressed, which we are a company who we deal with transitioning, whether you're transitioning from military, from college, we help with the look. Okay, you have a job now, we help you with the role. Yes. And I also have a nonprofit called Shared Hearts, which I work with young men and also now young women. My main focus is on the young man between the age of 13 and 21 with children or who just been lost, who's out there lost and need direction. We help with self-motivation. We do a lot of great things in the community right now. So that's picking up. If you need to get in contact with me, my number is 757-849-4045, or you can reach me an email. It's Detra, DETRA 2304 @hotmail.com.
Thank you again, Ms. Deidre Hooper.
My name is Carol Predlow, and I'm a professor of political science at Norfolk State University, where I teach American government, American foreign policy. I love what I do because it allows me not only to teach the basics of government, but here is someone that, I'm not a formal minister, but
our ministry is in our hearts.
Exactly right.
It allows me
Exactly
to
right.
look at young people, particularly young women, and say, look, I can help you. Let me do this. I've been there. I can do this.
And we need more of us like that, okay? Being in the classroom is not just about the subject matter, it's about changing lives.
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay, last but not least, I want you to share your information and how we met, because I think you're just awesome.
Thank you. Chandra Moyer, and I'm founder and executive director of Release Me International, whose mission is prevention through education and hope for restoration. We train people to recognize the signs and causes of human trafficking, to act early, and to respond with compassion. And our prevention training has really helped people identify students here in the Hampton Roads region. We've had 4 students who've been identified as being trafficked and rescued and given the proper services. And we just were awarded yesterday with the FBI Directors Leadership Community Award.
Congratulations.
Which is a national award. And we're hoping that that's going to just really open up more doors of opportunity to raise awareness about this critical issue that most Americans are not aware of.
And how can people get in touch with you?
www.releasemeinternational.org, and my phone number is 757-574-8421, and email is info.releaseme@gmail.com.
I want to thank all of my guests for sharing their stories of empowerment. You are survivors. You are survivors. And you are a survivor too. It is not about what you've been through. It's about understanding that it was something that was difficult, and how you handle it is up to you. How you grieve, how long you go through is really up to you. We're not saying, I'm not putting parameters around that, but I want you to know that you can survive it. And the fact that you are here tells me that you are a survivor. Thank you so much for joining us for It's Life Changing. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Now it's time for me to speak into your life. Today we've been talking about survivors. We've been empowering you to think about your life a little bit differently. But before you really can do that, there has to be some healing that has to take place. So before we do that, we need to talk about the victim mentality. We need to talk about how you see yourself. So let me help you understand what it means to be a victim, because some people don't even realize that they see themselves as a victim. So I want you to ask yourself, am I a victim? Are you acting like a victim? Some of us, again, don't know that our life has been already a traumatic experience. The experience of trauma is something that it's emotional, it's painful, it's distressing, and it's definitely shocking, which often results in lasting mental effects. And I want to focus today on the mental effects, because there's also physical effects, but I want to focus on the psychological effects of trauma. So what is trauma? What is trauma? Trauma can be caused by man-made and natural disasters, including war, earthquakes, mechanized accidents, car, train, plane accidents, medical emergencies, abuse, having been cheated on by a boyfriend or a girlfriend, betrayed by a good friend, having your heart broken, fired from your job, having a bad relationship with your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, having been a part of a violent or abusive relationship. That's all trauma. You notice how I started with sort of the trauma of the war and the earthquakes, and I ended with some of that real life stuff? Because sometimes we don't think about the trauma in our life as being a trauma. I need you to understand that there are psychological effects that come with that trauma. The same way you hurt physically from a car accident, you hurt psychologically from the abuse that you felt growing up or the abuse that you felt in that relationship, that abuse that came along with that divorce. There are psychological effects that come along with that. So most of us have experienced trauma. Therefore, you're likely to experience what we call emotional distress, which is in about 1/4 of all victims who experience trauma. So what is this? What does that look like? That's fear, that's anxiety, that's nervousness, that's self-blame, that's shame, all of those things. And so we need to break that down a little bit so you understand what I'm talking about. Because fear will keep you residing in the city that you live in and never wanting to move forward. Fear will keep you from taking a plane ride to another state, so you never see anything outside of your city. Shame will keep you from living the life that you need. That anxiety will keep you from doing something outside of the box, applying for the job, applying for school, all because you're afraid. We got to talk about the symptoms of our trauma. That anger. Earlier you heard people on different episodes, you're going to hear people talk about anger. A lot of people are walking around with anger, and it's not just in the men, it's in the men and the women. Sometimes you got so much rage caught up in you, you don't know what to do with it. You talking back to this person, you fussing at this person, you arguing with this person, you mad at the world, you bitter, you hate men, you hate women. That's a symptom of emotional distress, and that is a symptom of your trauma. I need you to understand how deep this thing is. I want you to take a look at the symptoms that you're feeling, the depression that comes along with that difficulty eating and sleeping, the suicidal thoughts, and hopefully failed acts. I want you to think about the symptoms that come along with the trauma that we feel. So I'm calling all the survivors who've been through cancer, all those who've been through loss and suicidal ideation and bankruptcy and homelessness. Whatever it is that you've been through, I need you to understand survivorship. Live your life, not looking for the storm, but living through the storm. Because life was not meant to be easy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna tell you it's been easy for me and it's not gonna be easy for you, but you can make it through the storm.
Now it's time for your community resources. We have with us 2 wonderful resources that we're going to share with you today so that you can get services in your backyard. So I'm going to start over here and ask you to introduce yourself and also what services we have at the Western Tidewater CSB for our viewers.
Okay, thank you for having us here. I'm Renee Hanna. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with Western Tidewater Community Services Board. So for short, I'm a therapist. We are community-based, we're community-oriented. We will come to you if you can't come to us as well. So, and if you're feeling bad, if you've gone through something that you're grieving, whether it's a death, the loss of a pet, the loss of any kind of relationship, a friendship, whatever it is that you feel like you're grieving about and you're feeling sad or bad or whatever feelings you're feeling, and you don't, even if you don't know what it is that you need, call us. Let us know that you feel bad. We have people there who can assess what's going on in your life, and they can help you. They can maybe give you some suggestions about what it is that you might what services you could benefit from to help you in your time of need.
And so now I'm moving over to my next resource, and I'm going to let him pronounce his last name because it's such a nice last name.
Sure. Thank you for having me. And my name is Mike Frickanese. I'm with the City of Suffolk Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm the fitness specialist with Parks and Recreation Department.
Awesome.
I work primarily out of East Suffolk Recreation Center, very close to us right now.
Yes.
But at Parks and Recreation, our vision is to build a healthy community through parks, leisure, and recreation. Also, we help the community with health and wellness through athletics. So we have
Wonderful. Okay.
indoor, right now it's going on indoor soccer, basketball, cheerleading.
Okay.
Then we also do outdoor soccer as well, and many athletic programs.
That's good. That's good.
We do before and after school care
Mm-hmm.
at our joint use facilities. So at several of the schools throughout Suffolk, Parks and Recreation has the children in the morning and in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And at our after school programs, they're very busy with health education and activity throughout those.
Wonderful.
Very nice programs.
And so can you tell people how to reach you?
Yes, you can go to the City of Suffolk website and Parks and Recreation Department. And on the Parks and Recreation Department website, I have a link for the East Suffolk Recreation Fitness Center. Go to meet the trainers, you can email me, and you can, or feel free to come on down to South 6th Street to the East Suffolk Rec Center. I'd be glad to show you around, talk to you about all our programs.
Wonderful.
That's Mike Frickanese at suffolkva.us, and 514-4504 is my office phone, or you can call the fitness center and leave a message there for me. One of the other trainers will get in touch with me at 757-514-4505.
Thank you so much for being here. I want to say, I really enjoyed this show. I want you to be empowered through being the survivor that you are. I hope that you will take advantage of the resources. I want to thank you again for watching It's Life Change. And just remember that I came here to bring you a little bit of peace, and I hope that you feel that. And peace, it doesn't mean to be in the without any noise or hard work or any trouble, but it means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.